Hey y'all, this is Mo.
And I'm Joy.
We are lifelong friends who met in kindergarten and reconnected in Catholic school when we were 12. We are Christian women who enjoy travel, making art, cooking, baking, reading, and gardening. We do our very best to practice holistic health, and we love America. So pull up a chair and grab a hot tea, coffee, or chai latte and enjoy the show.
Today's job market is different from other times in history. Job seekers face a rapidly evolving workforce with changes in technology, generational attitudes, and even interfaces with AI. Our podcast will offer analysis, real-life examples, interviews, and discussions. We will explore solutions for the current workforce that is impacted by layoffs or just wanting to make a change. And we'll do it while having a laugh or two. Welcome to Real Talk for Today's Job Seekers podcast. So we have a bonus episode here. Mo, you're going to tell us about your first job interview, right?
Yes, as we were recording some time back, I don't even remember what it is you said, but I think it was something along the line of, we need to put the human back in human resources and
Yes.
what AI is taking away from the real person and what they bring to the table. It made me remember my crazy first real job interview following college graduation.
Okay.
My last 2 years of college, I worked at a bank and typically worked the drive-through teller line.
Oh.
Yeah.
Retail work.
Lots of stories there, but
Uh-huh.
what I wound up noticing after being there for several months and actually just all the way through up until graduation, the majority of my customers worked at this mortgage banking company right down the way.
Okay.
I was young, fresh out of college, not really sure still what I wanted to do with myself, but I was, if I'm really honest, looking at their paychecks and I was like, wow, I need to work there. So over time, as time went on, with your same customers coming, you kind of get to know them, right? And you're chatting them up and how's it going? So we started having talks, hey, where is it that you work and where's it located and how do you like it? All of the things. And that kind of spurned my interest. So lo and behold, I wind up one of my customers was a loan officer manager at this company. He encouraged me to apply for a job. At that time, refis were booming in the mortgage business. Of course, I didn't know a whole lot about that business at the time, but in those days, the company was running these things called boot camps.
Okay.
So they were, I think back then they were 8 weeks, and you basically learn how to be a certain role. So one of them was a loan originator, one of them was a processor. I really wanted to be a processor because I'm not salesy. However, I couldn't get into one. They were full and weren't doing any one, so I had to do the loan officer one. I was super nervous.
Huh.
And anyway, I applied for the job and asked for the guy that had referred me. And at the time, I just thought, this is going to take forever. And I think it only took me like 3 weeks to get a job interview. But for me, back then, it felt like forever, right? Which is funny if you compare to what we've been talking about the last several months in today's job search, right? Well, finally, I get a call, and they're like, hey, we have an opening to get into this loan originator boot camp. I was super excited, but super nervous. And I scheduled my interview and was on my way and was kind of holding off to put in my resignation at the bank. And so it was scheduled for like a week out. 2 days later, I had already gotten off work. I had gone for my after work workout. And it's so funny. I can remember certain things so clear. I was wearing like black leggings and this ridiculous, I don't even know what this t-shirt was, but it was white. And it kind of had like this artsy face on it, like a painting.
Okay.
But it was ugly.
Job interview type.
It was so ugly. And then I have socks and tennis shoes, and my hair's obviously up in a ponytail.
Oh, fantastic.
So I had just gotten over to my friend's house, and we were getting a little something to eat, and I get this phone call. It's like 6 o'clock at night, or 6:15.
Huh.
He identifies himself, and he's just like, I am so sorry that this is so last minute, but I just had someone drop out of our current class. And it starts Monday, and I've got to backfill this. I know you've been trying really hard to get on, and when I talked to my HR department, they said, please call this girl. She calls us every week, right? So think about that. I was calling an actual live person.
Yes.
And talking to them every week just to say, hi. And I'm still very interested, and I'm excited to hear for the opportunity. And he said, I know it's very last minute, but is there any way that you can come in to interview? And I was like, what time do you want me to come tomorrow? He goes, can you come tonight?
And
I remember being like, what? It's like, well, it's not quite dark because it was the summertime.
Yeah.
No, that's not right. It was in the fall, so it was already dark. And of course, I'm like feeling a little bit uncomfortable. Like, is this real? Is this safe? And I'm like, well, I'm so sorry, but I'm not ready. I just got done working out. I'm in workout clothes. He's like, I don't care. Can you just come in? And I'm like, you want me to come in my workout clothes? I was just like so taken aback. I'm thinking to myself, is this how I'm starting my professional career? And he's like, honestly, if you just come in, I think you're going to be the right fit, but I need to meet you face to face because I think it was like a Wednesday. And he's like, I need you there Monday. I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yes. So I got all the information. I drive over, and the whole time I'm thinking to myself, how is this real life? And I'm like, I didn't have any clothes at this friend's house. I have nothing to change into. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was a lot more shy back at that time. So I go there. I find the building. It's kind of deserted. I'm looking around. I'm like a little nervous. So I called him when I parked, like he asked me to, and he walked out to the parking lot to meet me, which I appreciated. We went in, and he's like, there are a handful of people still working, and there's cleaning people in the building. So I was like, okay. And so we go in, and it's just this huge, wide open stance room. And all you can see is cubicles. But if you stand up, you can see across, the space, right? Remember those wide open cubicle?
Yes. Go first.
Exactly. Go first. Absolutely. So we go in, and obviously he's a manager, so it's a bigger space. I go sit down. It took me several minutes before I kind of got comfortable, but we start the interview, and we're going through things, and he's very personable, and so I started warming up and finding my way, and we get to the very end, and we're talking and finishing up the things, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe 5-10 more minutes and I'm out of here. But I felt good about it, and I'm like, okay, and I'd forgotten about myself and my clothes. 5 minutes before I'm out of there, no lie, this really tall man walks by, very quiet. And I remember him turning his head slightly and saying to the guy, good night. The other guy says, oh, good night. And then he sees me. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, hello. And the manager says to this man, oh, we're just wrapping up an interview. We'll be out of here in a few minutes. And the man pauses and he starts at the top of my ponytailed head and not in a rude way, but he observes me from my ponytail all the way down to my tennis shoe feet. And I turned the darkest shade of crimson. I was like, no way. And wouldn't you know, that fine man was the head of the entire origination division.
Fantastic.
Who I wound up running a lot of his projects. And so it wound up being a funny story down the road. But if you could have ever told me that that's going to be how I started my career, I haven't been able to find anyone else that's had a similar story. So, I know this is a mini story, but does anyone else out there have a really humorous first job interview, or maybe it's a different job in your career interview? I'd love to hear it. How about you?
Yes, absolutely. Hit us up on Facebook, Telegram, or shoot us an email at Real Talk for Today's Job Seekers. That was a great story. Thanks, Mo.
All right. See ya.
We want to thank you for listening to the Real Talk for Today's Job Seeker podcast with Mo and Joy. If you want to advertise and connect with our many listeners around the country, please reach out to us at realtalkfortodaysjobseeker@gmail.com. If you have any show topic, join us on our Facebook page to give us any recommendations and also to find out about upcoming shows. Thanks again for listening.